Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Gaming Aroma Podcast with me, your host KDB. Video game chat and ramblings fueled by coffee. Usually coming to you on Sundays, but this is not coming to you on a Sunday. I think this is probably going out on the Friday or the Saturday. And of course, it has been a little while since the last episode. People who listen to my shows know that that's a trend. I'm not a full-time content creator. You know this. I've got a life. I've got things to do. Leave me alone. No, joking aside, yes, it has been a while since the last episode. I think probably like 6 weeks. But I'm here today for an episode. Why has it been so long? I have genuinely been busy. I think since April, since kind of the Easter holidays, the Easter holidays, I can't really didn't have time to do content anyway because I'm juggling work and then my kid is home from school. So you're juggling work and childcare and all this kind of stuff. So Easter is a write-off. And then we've had events at work. Me and my family did take a weekend-long holiday in May, early May, at the start of May. Last weekend, we had another event at work. And it's just every weekend, weekends is the time really when I have time to do podcasts and things like that. Rarely in the evenings, in the week sometimes as well. But all my weekends for about nearly the past 2 months have just been slammed. And I always think about, shall I jump on and do a gaming aroma or shall I record something, just into my phone? But my head has just been so busy and I've got life stuff, family stuff, everything going on. I just parked it for a bit and I enjoyed the spring sunshine as well. A couple of rare moments in my garden for an hour or two, just enjoying the sunshine, having a beer, stuff that we don't get to do too often. And it was either that or come inside and record a podcast for you lot. And I chose to live my life and not record a podcast. So, sue me, I suppose. I'm just teasing. I'm teasing. I love talking about video games. I love talking about them with my friends and just rambling to myself, as you know. And I've got time today because I have 5 days off work. The half term is approaching. It is half term as of the end of today. So kids are off school. It's bank holiday next week. I've got today off. This is the Friday. And I've got Monday and Tuesday off as well. So 5 days off in a row. And my kid is at school. My wife's just gone out to see some of her friends. And I've been playing some games this morning. And I thought, I've got like 3 hours free this afternoon to do nothing. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to reward the patience of those people, of those listeners to the Gaming Aroma podcast with a new episode. So I'm here. Thank you for listening. Yes. What is today going to be? So this, usually I cover the news. I talk about the news, my reaction to the news. There's obviously been lots of news topics since my previous episode. I'm not recapping them, and I'm not really going to focus on the news today. What I am going to do is use this as a bit of a check-in episode focused on what I've been playing and the news and chat around those games, because there's been a few things on my mind. And, I love to have a moan and I love to muse and I love to ponder. So that's kind of what I'm going to do today, because I'm playing like 3 games, or at least in the past few weeks. I should say as well, where I've been so busy, I haven't had loads of time to play games. But when I can, there's been really 3 games in the past week or 2 that I've been playing exclusively. And there's definitely news around these games that, either got me going or got me thinking and made me think I want to muse a little bit today. So that's what this is. It's a kind of longer check-in what I'm playing and what I think about these things. So if you follow me on social media, if you follow me on Blue Sky, you will see that I've been posting a lot about a particular game that I was maybe a couple of weeks late to versus everybody else. And there's a very specific reason for this. Not just because I was busy, but when something comes out and everyone, and this applies to movies, music, it's everything. When something comes out and everyone's like, game of the year, best film I've ever seen, you have to play this. This is the greatest thing ever. It's putting everything to shame. And everybody hypes it up and hypes it up and hypes it up. So you think there's no point in me jumping on and checking this out because it's not going to meet the hype. If you get drowned in the hype of everyone else's hype, I mean, me personally, I always go in a bit cynical because I've been burnt by that so many times in the past of people hyping something up and then I watch it and I think it's not shit, but it's just, I think this isn't as good as people were making out. And I think today, especially online, people get very carried away, both positively and negatively, right? I'm not going to go as far as using the term toxic positivity, but there's definitely people with fake enthusiasm out there that really does my head in. And I think, come on, we're all human. You can't just love everything, right? So, and I see that a lot. I try to make a habit of generally not posting negative stuff online. I might be negative in a podcast chat or something like that where I can give it a bit more context. But if I don't like something, I generally don't talk about it unless it's like, I don't know, some kind of real issue that gets my goat. But yeah, so this thing came out and some of you probably already know what it is and everyone was banging on about it and I put it off. But then I listened to a few other people chatting about it. I seeked out a first-hand response from my podcast buddy, good friend Alex Aldridge of the Winner Is You and Gears Intel podcast and Video Game Hall of Fame podcast. God, he's on more podcasts than me, I think. And I asked his opinion on it over text and he gave me a little rundown and I thought, right, okay, I trust Alex's opinion because I know, you should always trust the opinions of your friends more than people online because you have better context for their tastes and who they are and you can kind of understand what they're saying, whether that's good or bad, because even if somebody was saying they didn't like something, you know why they don't like it and if that's not the same as what you think, right? And if you're not on the same page about something. So it's a good barometer. Your friends are often a better barometer than reviewers, critics and things like that because you know more about them. And that's why with critics, and I've said on this show, you cannot take the opinions of critics that seriously unless it's a critic that you've been following for years and you understand their tastes and their reference points and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, Alex gave me the green light, downloaded, fired it up. The game is, of course, Clair Obscur Expedition 33. So, for those that don't know, it's I was going to say fantasy game. I suppose that's right. Yeah? It's like a sci-fi fantasy turn-based role-playing game. I did have the Wikipedia page open. Just give me a second. Why don't I read that? Most of you know what it is. Here we go. Clair Expedition 33 is a 2025 turn-based role-playing game developed by French studio Sandfall Interactive and published by Kepler Interactive. Taking place in a dark fantasy Belle Epoque setting, the game follows the volunteers of Expedition 33 as they set out to destroy the paintress, a being causing the yearly gommage which erases those at or above the ever-decreasing age. Played from a third-person perspective, the player controls a party of characters exploring areas and engaging in combat. Coupled to its turn-based mechanics are real-time aspects such as quick-time events and timed actions in combat. So yeah, go and read about the game if you want a little bit more breakdown of it and the developer. But the long and short of it is this is a debut game from a studio in France, new team, a very small team, I think of about 30 people, plus external publishing and marketing and stuff on top, I think. But development side, I think it is, it's literally 30 people. And it came out to Game Pass, it came out everywhere, and it took the gaming world by storm. And as I said, I was dubious, but I jumped into it. Expedition 33. Now, disclaimer, this is generally, because this is kind of like, it's like a JRPG, and that's not really, it's not really a genre of game that I engage with. I have done in the past, and I like aspects of them. And you could even say that JRPG is, there's big discussions about what it means these days and what it means these days. And, and what constitutes a JRPG. This is obviously not made in Japan, so it's not a Japanese RPG, but it took inspiration from things like Final Fantasy. And, and that old classic JRPG, Pokemon, right? Which is big Pokemon vibes in this game. No catching monsters, but yeah. So I don't really usually engage with these things, but I have to say, very, very quickly, I was hooked, and I could sense straight away in the early goings of the game that, okay, I see those trappings that this has got that maybe don't always kind of float my boat. I do like turn-based tactics games, I really do, but it's the anime stuff around it, the JRPG anime stuff around it, and there's anime DNA in this game, 1000%. However, I think it's got a very Western, dare I say, and I have kind of posted about this on social media, Marvel, Game of Thrones-esque sort of tone to it. So the anime aspects are easier to stomach. Like straight away that I started running with a character and he's running like an anime character. Like this really exaggerated run, and it's got, sort of really beautiful human beings, sexy women, sexy men, and then really weird fucking looking creatures. Like the other characters that just kind of you didn't know anything about the game, they make no sense, but they're there and it's all normal and it's part of the world. So there's a ton of anime flavor to it, but with a Western lick of paint, shall we say. So I got it straight away, but something that was very prominent with lots of people, and I have to say I completely agree with, was that the story was really strong. And I'm not going to spoil the story today. I'm not going to get into big details on the story, but yeah, playing through the first sort of couple of hours and then the subsequent few hours and where I am today, and I've been playing it this morning today on my day off, the story to this game is fantastic. I mean, that's a broad way to look at it. You could dissect. It's not perfect. There's definitely some issues, and I'll maybe touch on some of my criticisms in a minute, but I've got a few things to say about Clair Obscur Expedition 33. I'm just going to call it Expedition 33. That's the easiest thing, right? I'm just going to give a few more game impressions, and then there's definitely been some talk around this game that I wanted to give some thoughts on. But generally for me, the gameplay, so fun. I jokingly mentioned Pokemon, but it's the walking around, bumping into something, battling, like lots of other turn-based RPGs as well. I'm not a big Final Fantasy player, but I know it has kind of similar stuff to that. And you've got your party of characters. You each get your turn, use your different skills, actions, healing, combat, super skills, parrying, blocking, dodging, all this kind of stuff. And full disclosure, I'm not playing it on super, super easy. It has a lot of... am I getting this confused with Doom? I think Expedition 33 has a fair bit of accessibility and difficulty adjustments. Am I thinking of Doom? Because I was going to get to Doom later, and that has loads. I think I'm playing Expedition on not the easiest, the one up from easiest. It's got like 4 difficulties. I would have to double check, but I know I'm not playing it on normal, I think. God, I should have checked, but anyway. But the reason I chose that was because I knew that it's not generally my type of game, and I heard the story was good, and I thought I'll just take a casual play through this, and if I want to up the difficulty, I will. Playing through it, I wouldn't say it's been easy. I've definitely died, and it's not because I think I'm terrible at it. I think I've done a thing with this game where I'm not using a guide, but if I kind of struggled, I've been unsure, I have quickly double checked online and thought, right, what is do this, to make sure that I don't fall into the same hole I do with other big games like this, where you spend 30 hours playing it completely the wrong way and you're fucking up your characters, and it's just you hit a wall and you can't progress any further. I could not be bothered to waste my time doing that. So I gave myself a decent setting. I set the table for myself well enough where I thought, okay, I know what I'm leaning into, pick a lane for the characters and stuff like this, and be prepared for maybe what's coming ahead. Gameplay wise, so much fun. For me, in my ever aging gaming days, turn-based is even more enjoyable to me. Now, you do have parries and dodges in this, so your reaction times do need to be up there, but as I said, I adjusted the difficulty, so I think I have a slightly larger window. I'm not hitting every parry, I'm not hitting every dodge, but I'm getting a few of them. And yeah, having loads of fun with gameplay. Story-wise, it's as well written as most. I've mentioned Marvel and Game of Thrones. Like, it's got that. What's the word? I mean, particularly with Marvel and Avengers, it's got a massive Avengers feel to it, but not shit. And same with Game of Thrones, it's got the brutal fantasy stuff, but not shit. I really loved Game of Thrones in the early days, like everyone. And then Marvel, as we know, it's peaked and dropped off. But it's definitely got those kind of vibes to it, the party vibes, the group. The story of the game definitely has lots of things that remind me of the Avengers and the thing that they're trying to achieve and the tragic event that happened. Yeah, it's very, shall we say, Thanos coded in a way. And the writing is really great. It's a huge focus on character piece. There is this overarching weirdness that's going on, but instantly it's about the characters, their relationships, loss of friends, family members, loved ones, working together and all this kind of stuff. And I was just enamored with these characters right from the go. It's certainly most of them anyway. The performances are super strong and the cutscenes are really good. The music is god tier. I posted on Blue Sky last night about how the music is just up there with the greats. It's up there with Resident Evil, Metal Gear Solid, Witcher 3, which are some of the biggest, amazing soundtracks ever. In terms of soundtracks that are like, because I could say Sonic the Hedgehog has an amazing soundtrack, right? But I think more cinematic storytelling, those kind of soundtracks, those kind of scores, you know what I mean? It's for that level. For my money, this is up there with the best, and it's very apparent, and it's very diverse soundtrack. It's not just one genre of music, which I quite love. There's a bit of almost everything in there. But the story itself is hugely profound moments, hugely sad moments, and the tone is nailed. I haven't found myself thinking it's silly. There is definitely a vagueness to the protagonists, which is really frustrating. Rather than them say why they're angry and why they need the characters to get out of their way, they just kind of like speak in riddles and these weird, confusing visions, which is probably my biggest gripe about the game, because I'm now like 12 hours into it and that stuff has really dragged. It's quite clear that confusion is supposed to be setting up a reveal that's incoming, and they've kind of hinted at a few things which I have theories on, but I'm sort of not a fan of that. But the moment-to-moment character stuff and the reasons they're doing what they're doing really sings, and I can't sing its praises enough. So, it's got themes of family, like mortality, immortality, destiny, paving the way for the future. Yeah, it's really good stuff. Really good stuff. And yeah, I'm not going to go into any more detail about it, but some great moments so far. I think I'm probably approaching the end of Act 2 of the game. Well, I don't know how many acts it's got, but it definitely did an Act 1, and it said end of Act 1 and it went to Act 2. I feel like I might be near the end of Act 2 now. So yeah, I'm nearly 13 hours in. Can't wait to keep playing. Fantastic game so far in many ways, and I can see it. My cynicism to jump in was misguided, but it wasn't misguided because many times I've then jumped into things that people have said is amazing and it's not. So I just expected something similar here, but thankfully I'm happy to be wrong. I think all the praise I've heard of it is pretty spot on. It's definitely not perfect. There's a few little graphical glitches, and it's smaller budget and smaller team, but it's minor. It has fewer issues than games made with 10 times the amount of people and budget. So, yeah, massively impressive from a debut game. So with that in mind, with the consideration of how good this is and people throwing it around as Game of the Year, right? Get Clair Obscur Expedition 33, Game of the Year contender. Let's discuss. It is absolutely a Game of the Year contender, at least of everything I've played, and then adjacently and vicariously I see what other people are playing and their opinions. It's clear this is a Game of the Year. It's so strong. This is a game that is enabling a lot of conversation around the games industry, and very much resonating with me and many things I've talked about on this show multiple times in the year and a bit that I've been doing the Gaming Aroma podcast. And yeah, I just wanted to touch on a few of those here. Before I do, I'm trying to fact check myself as I go. Price. Here we go. Amazon. So Expedition 33, its recommended retail price is $49.99. You can pick it up today on Amazon for $42.99. Obviously, we live in a world of $60, $70 AAA games, first-party games, and incoming $80, £80 games. Nintendo, £80 games are coming. Xbox, Microsoft, £80 games are coming. PlayStation haven't confirmed that £80 games are coming, but they are. It's a matter of time. It's imminent that PlayStation will confirm they're doing the same. Expedition 33 is available for nearly 40 quid. And it plays and feels like a game of quality of any AAA game I've played in the past 10 years. I really, there's, if I'm frank and if I'm honest, yeah, it's a very segmented game. It's little hubs and levels you go into, but that doesn't make it bad. There's no bloat in this game in Expedition 33. It's all so considered. You play something like Assassin's Creed Shadows, which I played earlier this year and really enjoyed. I haven't finished it, put 35 hours into it, and I was like, that's enough. I don't really need to see any more. I've seen everything I think this game can do. There's a lot of bloat in there. It's a huge open world map. Expedition 33 is not an open world game. It has a small open world element to it with its overworld map that you explore when you go into the little hubs and zones. Think Super Mario Brothers 3, where you explore the map and then you choose which level you go into. It's a bit like that. But yeah, it's not necessarily the same size as those games, but it doesn't matter because the quality that it puts forward is on par with those big games within the context of what it is, right? You know what I'm saying? And this is half the price of the incoming new first-party games. This game, with its price and its production value, is making a mockery of this notion that games should cost this much money. And I have to give a quick shout out to David Smiley, my other Gears Intel co-host, the other co-host of A Winner Is You. So I've talked about them both now. They'll be loving that if they're listening to this. On the most recent A Winner Is You, he's basically said the same thing. And I was already planning to talk about this on Gaming Aroma at some point, but the fact that these companies are charging these prices for these games when Clair Obscur Expedition 33 exists, it destroys the logic. The reason these companies are charging this much for the games is a mix of, don't get me wrong, they're expensive to make. Do they need to be that expensive to make? No, they don't. These big companies also need to appease shareholders and give huge bonuses to execs, to people at the studios. This is very much factored into what they do. And when they're dealing with licenses as well, they take big cuts from the licenses, or they have to pay big cuts to the licenses. So you end up with this huge bloated budget, massive team, and a game that, in theory, they're saying they have to charge 70, 80 quid for to make a profit. And whether whether that's accurate in terms of having to do it is kind of true, but how much profit do they really need? You know, the model is fucked, and Expedition 33 proves it. It's not the only game that proves it. There's others as well. I'm going to get to some of them in a minute. But yeah, it's just the whole thing now. I'm getting a bit sick of these 70 quid game, 80 quid game. Games should cost more money. Defenders or champions. No, they shouldn't. Games should not cost more money. And people say, oh, the games were 120 quid in the 90s for an N64 game. And it's like, yeah, and that was also a piss take. And at the same time, in the 90s, you could actually afford to pay rent and pay your bills, and the cost of living wasn't out of hand, and inflation wasn't through the roof, and people with decent salaries, hard-working people, were able to actually have a bit of expendable income and chuck it away on some games. These days, that doesn't happen. Middle-class people are struggling to pay their bills, and games costing this much, being priced out of the hobby, it's a big, big issue. I've touched on it before. I've touched on it on other shows and other podcasts I'm a part of. And I both love and hate that Expedition 33 has come along and destroyed the logic that games need to cost that much. They don't. Because this is one of the best experiences I've had in a long time in a video game, and it's half the price. So, what's going wrong? It's poor decision making, bad management, people at the top getting paid more money than they should, profiteering. It's capitalism out of hand. And I'm not very much not one of these people that's like, oh yeah, capitalism, what do you expect? No. Expedition 33 was made within a capitalistic society, and it's proof that you can make it work, and everyone can be a winner. We can get a fantastic game, developers can get paid, beautiful art can be produced alongside the notion of a product that they want to sell as well. And everyone can be very happy because the game sold what? Let me check. Expedition 33 sales. Within the first 12 days, it sold over 2 million copies. Now, just a caveat, there is an argument here that Expedition 33 was never in a position to price itself at that high rate because it is a new franchise, new studio. Why would anyone invest in a new thing? And this is why the game is on Game Pass as well, because they knew they would need that boost, or at least they thought they did. They knew they were up against it, but the team and studio and the game development was well managed enough that they thought, yeah, we can put this out at 40 quid, or 50 quid, right? So we've arrived at a point where this game has come out. It's better than a lot of the games that the first party publishers are putting out. It's cost less. It's the talk of the town. Everyone loves it. And what does this tell us? This tells us if you just make good games, people will buy it. It also tells us that Game Pass does not kill sales of video games. This is another conversation which I really dislike. Game Pass cannibalizes video game sales. Game Pass is destroying the industry. No, it isn't. This game has sold over 2 million copies while being on Game Pass day one. Game Pass is a service for people like me, who, as I said, hard-working people with less expendable income, to try games, to access all of these games that they otherwise can't afford to buy regularly. And I've said it before, if you only play 1 or 2 games a year, Game Pass isn't for you. Me, I love lots of different games. I want to try multiple games a month and play different games throughout the year. I want to play over 50 games every year. I can't afford to do that. Game Pass allows me to do that. Game Pass does not cannibalize sales. Now, obviously, for every success of Expedition 33, there's lots of games that don't do as well. Why don't they do as well? I don't think it's anything to do with Game Pass. It's to do with what the game is. We see this time and time again. Small little indie games come out, word of mouth spreads, sales shoot through the roof, and it's a huge success. It's happening more and more than it ever has in my gaming lifetime. And I'm just really tired of this, of those two things. One, that games should cost more money, and two, that Game Pass is killing the game industry and stopping people from buying games. Neither of them are true. And Expedition 33 is not just an exception to the rule. It's case in point among many case in points. Balatro, Blueprints, the Oblivion remaster. I don't have a big list in front of me. This is what I'm thinking off of the top of my head. So I read that the Oblivion remaster sold more copies in its first 2 or 3 weeks that it's been out than the original Oblivion did back in the day in like the first 6 months. Oblivion remaster is on Game Pass day one. Steam numbers were huge. 230,000 players, something stupid like that. So lots of people are buying it on Steam. And Oblivion Remastered is it on PlayStation? Am I being stupid? Oblivion Remastered, it must be, right? Yeah, it's on PS5 as well. So people are buying it on PS5. I'm sure they announced the numbers and it was millions as well. But where was I going with this? Yeah, Game Pass does not cannibalize sales. If the game is good, it doesn't matter if it was made by an indie developer, a AA game, a AA developer, a AAA developer, whether it cost $1,000 to make or $100,000 or $100 million. Whether 30 people worked on it, 300 million people worked on it. 300 million. That's 1,000 people worked on it. I'm looking at you, Assassin's Creed. It doesn't matter. It's all irrelevant. What matters is if it's good. What makes a game good? Synergy, good teams, good creative people, good ideas, lack of corporate interference, I would say, makes a game good. And this has to be another watershed moment, right, in gaming. We keep having them. Pricing's getting out of hand. Indie games are exploding and doing well. AAA games are flopping. Live service games are... look at what's happening to Bungie and Marathon at the moment. Like, are Bungie finished? Marathon's dead on arrival. It pains me to say that. I'm not trying to be horrible about the team that are making Marathon, but issues of plagiarism, copying, chasing trends. Yeah, it's over for Marathon. How is that going to succeed? All right, they might ride out a rocky launch and maybe it will succeed in future, but they're going to be needing to do a lot. They've already delayed the game, right? Or I might be getting confused. I think people are saying they should delay it. They cancelled showing some gameplay or something. That's probably what I'm thinking of. Yeah, this is another watershed moment in gaming. Expedition 33 should be a signal to everybody. Stop saying games need to cost $80, 80 quid. Mario Kart World does not need to cost $80. And that's a kart racer. You could, if you want to turn around and say, look, all right, Assassin's Creed, I mentioned Assassin's Creed Shadows, that needs to cost $80 because 1,000 people worked on it, and it's this incredible experience, this open world, it's 200 hours of content and all this kind of stuff. It's like, all right, that's out of hand, and people don't really need that, and you could better manage the game and bring the price down. But if you're saying that's what it costs because it's that big and fucking bloated, fine. Mario Kart World does not need to cost $80. That's a Nintendo tax. 100%. And I'm just sick of it. Like, I'm someone that has been... We did a first aid spray thing a little while ago where we talked about generations and next gen and what next gen means. This is a few months ago we did this. And I just repeated stuff that I've been saying on this show and that I've been saying in my life for the past couple of years. I am very frustrated and fucking depressed that I am being very slowly and meticulously priced out of certain areas of gaming. Video games now, at the point of entry, modern gaming, I should say, is a luxury hobby. You cannot get a console for less than 300 quid, right? And I'm thinking of the bottom rung here, Series S. But if you want one of the decent ones, an Xbox Series X or a PS5 Pro, it's over £500, and that's before you've got any fucking games. Xbox, yes, it has Game Pass, but now they've bumped the prices of their consoles up. If you want to enter into the Xbox ecosystem, you've now got to pay through the nose to do it, despite the amazing value of Game Pass. They've put a barrier up to people like me. If I didn't already have an Xbox Series X, I would not be able to afford one today. I can't just chuck away 500 quid, even on a long-term investment, and then you need to buy the games, you need to buy an extra controller, do you have a TV worth playing it on? It's just, I have a lot of time for what Xbox are doing with cloud and Game Pass. It's great. I put that aside for a sec. As I say, modern gaming at the entry point for PS5 and Xbox is and Switch as well, because of the price of the new console. It's now a luxury hobby. And I was saying on these other shows that I'm so sad that that's where we're at. And I didn't want next gen to price me out of gaming. I've been priced out of so much stuff. You can't go to a gig anymore, a music gig. Going to gigs when I was younger used to be one of my, favorite hobbies. It was like going to the cinema, going to festivals, going to gigs, right? You want to go, and I've seen some of the biggest musical acts out there, multi-million selling acts, like this is what I said on the first Aid Spray show, for tickets less than 30 quid in the last 15 years. And those tickets today are 3, 6, 9, 12. They've gone up 400% at minimum. You can't go to a gig to see a top artist these days without paying less than £100 a ticket. And it's just, it's really difficult because, as I keep saying, I'm someone who works very hard. I do everything I'm supposed to do. I pay my bills. I pay my way. I work hard at my job. And I'm starting to have less and less to show for it when it comes to the hobbies that I care about and the art that I care about. Gaming, movies, going to the cinema. Yeah, the cinema industry is crumbling, and the cost of a cinema ticket varies these days. It depends where you go, and there's lots of reasons why. You can still get a pretty cheap cinema ticket these days if you go to the right place. And I'll leave that conversation for another time, but I'm just getting priced out of everything that I love, and I'm so thankful that I do already have a console and Game Pass because, I have access to this, and I wouldn't be able to get access to it today. I can't buy a PS5 today. You all know, listening to this, I bought a PC a little while ago. That was like a family investment for me, my wife, and my son, and I chose that over a PS5 for obvious reasons. Expedition 33 should be a fucking foghorn, alarm, siren to everybody. It doesn't need to be this way. And I do wonder if we're just going to see more variation. Maybe we're going to have those 80 quid games and we'll have the 40 quid games. And I just hope that studios like Sandfall are able to continue putting stuff out. Because hopefully they should be, because they probably made a decent amount of money on this. I don't know what their deal was with Kepler Interactive, but they would have got a big bag from Game Pass as well. And and there are lots of games that come out, as I mentioned, people say, it's an exception to the rule. This isn't usually what happens. And it's like, no, it's what happens when the game is good. The reason it doesn't happen often is because most of the games that come out are shit. Or just not very good, not good enough to warrant the price tag, right? And I sound like I'm being harsh, but there's thousands of games coming out every year. Shovelware, anime porn. Like, it's just, of all the games that, I don't know why I jumped straight to anime porn. The Switch store's loaded with it, apparently, and the Steam store. And, I mean, so I'm told. So people tell me. Where was I going with that? Yeah, it's not an exception to the rule. The current rule is most games that come out are not very good for various reasons. Maybe it's too easy to make a game. It's easy to make a game. It's very difficult to make a good game. And the story behind Expedition 33 and how these developers came together, and I've heard the cast talking about the game. It's like, yeah, I'm not surprised it's good, because it sounds like you were able to create the thing that you wanted to make. So yeah, slightly connected, and I will calm down. But yeah, I mentioned Oblivion. It's like, yeah, this whole Game Pass versus sales thing. Oblivion also on Game Pass and selling great. Blueprints. Split Fiction is another one. You know, was that a £50 game as well? It's in conversation for Game of the Year. Yeah. Oh, one last thing, and just to kind of reinforce my Game Pass point. So Expedition 33, I'm telling you now, me personally, I still would not have bought this game, even with all the positive reviews. The only reason I have played this game, the only reason I've tried this game is because of Game Pass. I had preconceived notions, rightly or wrongly, it doesn't matter. My time is precious. I know what I like, I know what I enjoy, and for me to suddenly jump in and dive into a JRPG like for £50 would have been a big ass, even if it was 10 out of 10. There's Game of the Year games from the past 10 years that I haven't played because I think that they're not my type. It's not my tastes. I may love them if I buy them and play them, but they're either not on Game Pass, so I don't buy them. I do still buy games. That's another thing that comes up. I actually buy more games now probably than I ever did. But I buy what I know I will like. Or if I sample something on Game Pass and it leaves Game Pass, I will buy it when it goes on sale. I don't think the industry is relying on me to buy games day one. Lots of other people do. I'm supporting the industry through Game Pass. Developers get paid to be on Game Pass. They get a lot of money. It takes a bit of the weight and risk of lack of sales off their shoulders. Even with all the good reviews, I still would not have bought Expedition 33. I've played it because it's on Game Pass. If it was to leave Game Pass tomorrow, I'd probably stick it on my credit card and go buy it because I'm loving the game so much. So Game Pass is a fantastic gateway to games, a way to access, try, and rent games. Yes, rent games. People have this big thing today about saying, oh, why do you just want to rent games? Why would you not, want to buy them? Like, I'm sorry, but what about fucking 20 years ago when all we were doing was renting games from Blockbusters and the local video shops? No one was crying about it then. And I think this idea of implying that people who rent games don't care about the gaming industry or supporting the devs, it's just fucking nonsense. It is not my job to make sure the developers get paid. It's as simple as that. I want the industry to thrive. I support it within the means that I'm able to. And to imply that I'm not a gaming fan or a real gaming fan, as some of these other fucking studio heads have been saying recently, because I don't want to pay £80 for a game. No. Woosa. Let me know what you think in the comments. Am I just a raving fucking lunatic? Let me know what you think. I can't believe I'm at like 40 minutes of this podcast and all I've done is whinge when I said I don't really whinge. I'm not whinging about bad games, really. I'm whinging about the state of this fucking industry. Anyway, well done, Clair Obscur. You are amazing. What else? I touched on the Oblivion Yes, there was a couple of other games which I'm just going to quickly touch on. What else have I been playing? The Oblivion remaster. It's fantastic. I'm someone who's never finished Oblivion. Oblivion was my gateway into Western RPGs back in the day. And I remember being so captivated with the original Oblivion on Xbox 360 that, not just me, sorry, my girlfriend at the time would just sit on the sofa and watch me play it. But, earnestly. She wasn't doing it just like, because she wanted to be, like, she was outright saying how invested she was in the story and how she loved the conversations and loved watching me. She wasn't really a gamer, and she loved watching me play it because it was, at the time, it was so mind-blowing to me and to us to play something like Oblivion. I've never finished the main campaign, and it's quite funny because I went back and looked at my achievements for Oblivion, and I'd like smashed through all the arena fighting stuff, and I remember playing it back in the day thinking that the aim of the game was to do that, not realizing that was just like a side quest. I played it for many, many hours, but maybe only ever made it like halfway through the main campaign. And the remasters come out, remaster / remake is fantastic. I've been loving it. Expedition 33 definitely came in and took me away from that. I'm going to get back to the Oblivion remaster, but what they've done here to show love to a game, I think it's really awesome. And I've seen varying opinions on it. There's some people think they haven't done enough, and it's just like, no, I don't really agree. I think it's fine, and it allows, in a time where, as we've said, people not buying games? No, it works. When you create something with buzz and excitement, people buy it, people play it. It's sold loads, and rightly so. And hopefully this will then allow Bethesda to pump some more money back into future games and not just line the pockets of their execs. Because I've been really enjoying it. And it's another case, I think, of what modern chatter and online word of mouth can do to help the sales of the games, because I mentioned how this has sold more in the first few weeks than the original game did in the first 5 months or something. Modern social media and streamers and stuff, they're a huge part of that. I've always got a bee in my bonnet about social media and some streamers as well. It's a weird culture we're living in, but what you can say is some of the best marketing that movies and games and such can get these days is from content creators, from podcasters, from streamers. The right word of mouth, the right YouTube clips, the right TikTok shorts do the rounds, and you're away. And I think people were having so much fun with Oblivion that word of mouth got around. And I thought that deep dive they did to launch the game was awesome. And I wish more games did this, because what I noticed from that is they completely leaned into the weirdness and the funniness, and they acknowledged all of that. None of it felt snobby. It felt like, no, we're taking this thing that you all love, and we're just trying to smarten it up and make it better, introduce it to a new generation of players, but at the same time, give those who experienced it back in the day that same feeling. And I think they did. And that deep dive was awesome, and the game was awesome, and I feel like when I'm done with Expedition 33, I will go back to it, and I may finally, 20 years later, finish the Oblivion campaign, and then I can call myself a true fan of the Elder Scrolls, right? I can't wait. Really, really good game. My son was watching me play it a little bit as well, and he's quite enjoyed it, because I don't mind him watching it because it's quite cartoony, and it's got violence in it, but it's cartoon violence really in Oblivion. So, and I've been connecting with, funnily enough, some of the parents of the kids at my school. The parents of kids from my son's school, like, some of them are playing Oblivion, and these are people that I haven't really spoke to about gaming before. But it just shows that, it was a nice little moment, I think, a few weeks ago with Oblivion coming out, and really been enjoying that. And one last thing I do want to talk about, and then I'll start to wrap it up, is Doom the Dark Ages is out, which I've only played for like an hour and a half. Super fun, but again, Expedition 33, it's taken me away from these other games. But the reason I wanted to touch on Doom the Dark Ages, slightly circle back to something I talked about earlier in today's show, is there was a lot of chatter last week about how Doom the Dark Ages is apparently failing because, let me open the news article. What's funny is I've Googled this and it's brought up a Vice article which has talked about exactly what I'm going to talk about. So, Doom the Dark Ages came out and there was a lot of, like, what do we say, alarm bells from the internet saying the game had flopped because it only had 30,000 players on Steam. And this is something that I've been a believer in for a while, is people are very quick to go to Steam numbers and use that as a barometer, an accurate barometer for a game's success. It's just not true, because in the first week, 30,000. Well, let me pull up this article. What does it say? Here we go. So yeah, this is Vice. I'm just going to read the first paragraph here. Despite many players believing Doom the Dark Ages had flopped due to low player numbers on Steam, Bethesda has announced the game is a massive success. According to the studio, it's actually id Software's biggest launch in history. Is this a sign we're maybe too obsessed with Steam charts? Yes, it is. It's a perfect sign. It really annoys me, and I'm someone who's new to PC gaming. When Indiana Jones came out, there was a couple of podcasters I were listening to like, oh, yeesh, like it's only got like a few thousand players on Steam, the game's flopped. No, it hasn't flopped. People are playing it on console. Console is not dead, and there's been this, what's it called? Not trend. This sort of, I suppose it is a trending conversation where people imply that console gaming is dead and PC is bigger than ever and everything is PC and console players don't matter, and yeah, and it's just not the case. It's all hand in hand. You know, Xbox and PC talk to each other quite a lot these days, and when I say talk, I don't mean literally. I mean the systems and OSs work in tandem a little bit, so, and probably will more in future. But what did they say? Millions, blah 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 blah. I can't find the exact. There we go. 3 million players in the first week. It's got to 3 million players 7 times faster than Doom Eternal. So there you go. Console gaming is not dead. Game Pass does a lot for games. Doom is obviously available on PlayStation. PlayStation has an audience of what, 100 million? Oh, PS5 does at least. There's loads of people buying the games. And it just kind of, yeah, it's another thing that got me going a little bit because, I mean, for a start, 30,000 is a lot. Fallout 76 gets around 12,000 regular players. That's a live service game, and it's considered very healthy. So to see a game have over 30,000 players on Steam, for me personally, I'm like, is that not good? That seems pretty high. But people were expecting hundreds of thousands. And this just proves it doesn't matter. Not everyone wants to play on PC. Some people like playing, like me, the comfort of their sofa with a console, controller in their hand, because they've been sat at a desk in the day and they don't want to sit at their desk and play PC games. So it's just something that I wanted to acknowledge and give a little bit of time to, because, you know, Steam charts, in the same way the Metacritic scores, it's like, in ways it can be a good little, it can be a peek at something. It can maybe be a starting point, but I don't think we should underestimate console. And despite consoles changing and adapting, I think there's still more people out there. There's more casual gamers than there are the hardcore gamers like us, right? More casual gamers that will want ease of access, just playing in front of their TV, which is why cloud's exploding and you're going to see more gaming apps on TV. I'm sure it won't be long before PlayStation strike up a deal and get there. Oh, say strike up a deal. They make TVs, right? Sony make TVs. How long until the Sony app and Sony Cloud app is on TVs, right? It's not already, is it? I don't actually know. I'm pretty sure it's not. They need to improve their service first, though, because their subscription service is... I don't want to hear it. People will highlight a month here and there where it's like, oh, look how awesome the PS Plus, the PS Online thing is these months. Look at these games we're getting. No, it's not good. it's really bad. The selection is piss poor, and the very fact they're not leveraging their incredible back catalogue, which they promised they were going to do with the 2 or 3 years ago, they launched this new subscription system. Where's all the classics? You get like one a year that people care about. So yeah, so shout out to Doom, The Dark Ages. Have loved what I played. It's another game that my son wants to watch me play, but I've kind of kept him away from it because it's a bit too... He's not quite there yet, I think. 3 million players. I'm one of them. Looking forward to getting back to it once I finish Expedition 33 and Oblivion, I guess. And that is kind of where I'm at. I wanted to check in with you, tell you my feelings on Expedition 33 and how it's got me fired up about lots of things in the industry at the moment. And I have to plug that Winner Is You episode so that David was talking on about the game pricing, because so he and Alex actually did this really good concept of an episode where I think it's called Their Biggest Gaming Disappointments, and it's part 1, so they got more to come. And that can, I think don't let that put you off. It's not them to sat being toxic and horrible for a while. There's this brilliant concept which, I mean, if Alex didn't steal this from someone, he should copyright it because it's fantastic. So they took their disappointments and they ranked them. Now, I know ranking and tier lists are not an original thing, but I had never seen someone rank disappointments. And what this does is it takes things that are disappointing, but then reapplies love and appreciation to them. So you've got a disappointment, but that's in an S rank on this tier. And then you've got the really big disappointments, which are down in the D rank. And I just thought, yeah, shout out to the lads for doing that, because that was something that it just promoted a really interesting conversation, and they were reminiscing about console launches and game releases, and but then obviously pricing, and they talked a lot about pricing and stuff to do with the industry. Preservation, that was it. David was talking a lot about preservation as well. And yeah, I just go and listen to A Winner Is You. You know, I think the work that they both do is something that gets overlooked a lot, because they've got their quirky little ways and their fun little ways, which I resonate with a lot, but they're both extremely knowledgeable about the gaming industry. And yeah, a tier list of disappointments that kind of swings back round to them being quite positive about these disappointments in certain ways is, yeah, I just thought that was magic. So go check that out. And yeah, and I'm not going to leave it 6 weeks before another episode of the Gaming Aroma Podcast. I have been doing some other stuff. I think since I put out a previous Gaming Aroma, I've done, we've done Gears Intel, of course. We put out a couple of Gears Intel videos. The channel's growing there. Please do go subscribe on YouTube. On the road to E-Day and the Xbox Showcase, there's going to be a bit more coverage on there. I'm sure I'll talk about the showcase on here as well. And then First Aid Spray, we just did a 3-hour dive into Resident Evil Revelations 2, which the TLDR is very good game. Go and listen to us talk about that episode if you like Resident Evil. And even if you don't, you might learn something. And just, yeah, thank you for listening to this show. As always, my little small committed audience, you are all very much appreciated. Please rate the podcast, give it some stars on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, subscribe to the YouTube channel where I also upload it. Come and find me on Blue Sky at KDB-init. Come and chat with me. Let me know your thoughts about game pricing, game preservation, Clair Expedition 33. What's your game of the year? Because I think it's going to be very hard to beat Expedition 33 for game of the year. I didn't do my Open Critic at the start. Quick update then on Open Critic. I am, let me open it, doing horrendously. Because obviously Fable got delayed, and then, what did I call it? Open Critic? My Fantasy Critic. Fucking hell. Hold it together. My Fantasy Critic, which runs through Open Critic scores. For those that don't know, it's a draft I'm doing with some friends, gaming releases. You gain points based on the releases. And I am currently sitting, I think I'm currently sitting first? Second? No, I'm currently sitting first. I had a big boost from the release the release of the DLC of Sea of Stars, Throes of the Watchtower, which got me an 19, which got an open critic score of 89 and gave me 19 in points. I lost Fable, and obviously I lost GTA 6 because that's been delayed. I've dropped GTA 6. I do still have a space in my list. Now, although I'm sitting first, most of my picks have scored. The only game I've got left outstanding to score is Mafia: The Old Country, which comes out later in the year. But then I have a space to pick. So I'm waiting for the showcase. Let's see if anything sneaky gets announced there, and maybe I'll pop something in my list. I think I'm projected to finish 4th in the league, which is fine. I've done okay. I've just not done good enough, I think. And the delays and, the cancellations or whatever haven't helped me. But fingers crossed I do better. Anyway, yes, more on more on Fantasy Critic in the future. That's it. Thank you so much for listening. What am I going to do now? I'm going to try and enjoy some more of my day off. Might do a little Gears Intel video, not a long one, maybe just a quick one. I kind of have time, so I might do that because I'm not going to get any other time this weekend, I expect. Going to enjoy my days off work. Hope you enjoy yourselves, whatever you're up to this weekend. Yeah, thanks for listening to me rant, and I will be back just as soon as I can be bothered to. Take it easy, everyone. Thanks for listening. Bye.